you're next to before you take a seat. Just so you know, these grapes are real. I didn't know that. That's pretty nice. Kristen, you want to catch one? Okay. All right. Well, good morning, guys. I'm glad to be with you this morning. We're going to start a new series this morning called Table Talks, which I'm really excited about. In the Gospel of Luke, there's 23 parables. There's 23 stories that Jesus tells around tables, or it tells, and 15 of those stories are around tables. And I believe that as we approach the holiday season of Thanksgiving, there's a lot to be thankful for. But I want to talk this morning about what is the symbolism and the sign that Jesus wants to give us as a community, and what are the things around tables that Jesus teaches us about the kingdom of God. I want to welcome everybody that's here, everybody that's watching online. I know I got a text this last week saying someone watches from Enumclaw. You know where Enumclaw is? Okay, we got some Enumclaw lovers. Just so you know, we do know where it is. It's past, it's by Puyallup. You head east towards, hold on, I got this. You head east towards the mountains, towards Crystal Mountain, and then you hit Buckley, and you're in Enumclaw. Anyways, that's not beside the point. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. For those that are watching online, we love you guys. Thank you for being here. The whole point around Table Talks is this. It's to challenge our community. It's to teach us the power of being around tables. Here's my thought. You guys can call me crazy. That's okay. My thought is the future pulpit will be tables. It will not be stages. It will not be pulpits. The future pulpit will be around tables. That more people will come to know Jesus around our tables rather than in our churches in the future. I don't know. Call me crazy, but when it happens, or if it happens, remember these moments. Because here's what I believe. I believe that the church is being awakened and shaken kind of to its foundation of understanding what the gospel message means for our time. What does it reflect in our cultures? What does it reflect in our life? What does it reflect in our cities? What does it reflect in our day-to-day operation of how we live life with one another? I don't know about you, but I've had more experience with Jesus with people that would never come to our church or never come to a church, but sit around my table and listen to the gospel and simple questions. How's your life going? How's your marriage going? Where are you struggling? Where are you having a hard time believing that God's good? I've had more conversations with people around tables. I've heard more stories of people being hurt by things, but they'll sit around tables. They've even been hurt by churches or pastors, but they'll sit around a table. There's healing that happens when we get around tables. And as your pastor, I'm going to challenge you always. I'm going to always challenge you to learn what it looks like to live out the gospel as you wrestle with those things within your own life. As you wrestle with the theology and the gospel story of Jesus, and what does that reflect in the New Testament, and how does God teach us what it looks like to be an active, mobile follower of Jesus in our today age. So we're not just a church that just invites people to church. Yes, that's good. Invite people to church, because I can do things and help and do things for them, and we can help have them meet people. That's great. But they're more likely to sit around your life and around your table than maybe come to church. And especially with COVID, there's fear towards being in groups, right? But people will get around tables. So that's what we're going to talk about this morning. For the Thanksgiving thing, we want to invite you guys on to bring perishable food, imperishable food. Imperishable? Thank you. Imperishable. This is going to be a good morning. Imperishable food. Yeah, bring food that is imperishable. So dumb. But we're partnering with an organization called Acres of Diamonds that helps homeless families in Duval. And one of the people that goes to our church, works for this organization. And we asked, what can we do to help, this organization? And we're going to help them pack Thanksgiving meals so that we know that we're doing our part to help people have Thanksgiving this year that are experiencing homelessness. So make sure you guys can bring your stuff, and then we'll pack it on the 21st, and it will be awesome. Here's the start of this. Here's the start of the story as we get into Luke chapter 5, verse 32. I'm going to read out the Message version because I liked how Eugene Peterson put it in this context. But here's the start of this story, okay? Jesus eats really, really good food with bad people. Jesus eats really good food with what society would marginalize and cast out and not invite into our space, and what people would say was unclean, and leopards and prostitutes and liars and cheaters and Judas and all the people. Jesus ate always really good food with what society said was bad people. This is the gospel. This is what got Jesus killed, and we're going to get into it in just a minute. But this is what got Jesus killed. He ate amazing food with bad people. Today we're going to talk about the shared theology of mission when we get into Luke chapter 5. The shared theology of mission, when Jesus says, I've come to seek and save that which is lost. And then he reveals it right here in Luke chapter 5, verses 27 through 32. The Message version, shout out to Eugene Peterson for his life's work. It's also behind me. Are you guys ready to learn this morning? All right, let's dive in. Let's wrestle with this scripture, and let's learn about what Jesus teaches us at this table talk around this table eating good food with bad people. It says this: after this, Jesus, went out and saw a man named Levi at his work collecting taxes. Jesus said, come along with me. And he did. He walked away from everything and he went. Levi gave a large dinner at his home for Jesus. Everybody was there. Tax collectors, disreputable characters as guests at his dinner. And the Pharisees and their religion scholars came to his disciples greatly offended. Let me just put this into context in modern ears today. This would be, you have a friend of Antifa and you see yourself on Instagram or eating with somebody, and all of a sudden someone cancels you because you're eating with somebody that is bad. Or you see someone that was a Christian nationalist and you're sitting with them around a table, and next thing you know, you're canceled because you're eating good food with bad people. Or you know somebody that's pretty promiscuous. Here we go. We're gonna promiscuous. I don't know why I say these words in my head. I'm like, you got this. You read a lot of books, you got this. And then I'm like, cinnamon rolls. What? No. Gosh, But this is what's happening in this story. Prostitute that you know, and you sit with them, and then church people get really mad at you for hanging out with these people, trying to share the gospel with these people because you're not supposed to be with them. They get greatly offended. Sounds like culture today. We get greatly offended at displaying the gospel to people that need it. They said, what is he eating and drinking with misfits and sinners for? Jesus heard about it and spoke up. He said, who needs a doctor? The healthy or the sick? I'm here inviting outsiders, not insiders, an invitation to a changed life, changed inside and out. The title of this talk this morning is Cancel Culture, Jesus, and Table Talks. Cancel culture, Jesus, and table talks. If you don't know what cancel culture is, cancel culture basically is you're ostracized, you're kicked out of groups, you're kicked out of families, you're kicked out from people because of something that you posted or something that you represent or something that you're walking through or somebody that you know that other people don't like and they don't agree with, or maybe your theology and you're kicked out, you can't speak up, you can't talk about it, you can't invite people to your house, you can't have conversations with them, church people won't like it, other people won't like it. This is cancel culture. This is cancel culture today. Everything is polarized. Your life is polarized. As people are watching every move that Christians make that represent Jesus in our world. And here's the thing is you only see something from a distance so far. See, I love Thanksgiving. I don't know about you guys. It's one of my favorite holidays. One, because there's always a lot of food and there's leftovers. Why does it come to Christmas and it's like, where are the leftovers? Like, it's not like Thanksgiving. Come on, I want more leftovers, you know? I love Thanksgiving because there's always leftovers. And before COVID, what our life would look like is Kristen and I, we would go down to Kristen's family's house, her mom in Tacoma. Shout out to Tacoma, Tacktown. That's where I grew up. Love Tacktown people. You're my people. I love you. But we would go to Tacoma and we would always invite people that just didn't have a place to go, because I would always be like, hey, do you have a place to go? No, do you have a place to go? It's just a great opportunity to invite people that don't have family, that are going through hard stuff, that don't have a place to land, to go and experience the gospel through a Thanksgiving dinner. We don't even have to say anything. We just have to invite people into that space. Francis of Assisi says you need to preach the gospel at all times and when necessary use words. So our life is a message. Our life is a message to people about Jesus. So we invite people to our table, and I remember I love Thanksgiving because when I look down the table, I'm like, all these people just came from all walks of life. I know we had a couple that was a gay couple that I got to know really well. They lived in Seattle. They would be around our table. I got to know their story. I got to know who they are. I got to know where they came from. I got to know the hurt, the habits, the hang-ups, the things that they've walked through, how they're viewed by society. This couple sits at our table. Then I look down and I see one of my friends that was an ex-convict that is sitting at the table. Then I look down again and I see another kid that I've been walking with for a long time who grew up in the foster care system and was going from home to home to home. Then I look down, I see Kristen's family. I see some more of my friends. I look down the table and instantly I go, now this is what Jesus' table would have looked like. I love Thanksgiving because it's those opportunities where it's like, come on, you don't have a place to go, come be with us, come, and the funny thing is, whenever I'm there, I'm always Pastor Jeff, I'm like, no, right now I'm just chilling, leave me alone, I'm off duty. You see my time stamp? Off duty. Like, no, Chris's dad's always like, Jeff, would you like to pay for the food? I'm like, Jesus, thanks. Like, come on, like give me a break, you know? But the thing is, when we're all together, we round up together, and all of a sudden what we have in common is our love and our invitation in that moment. I love Thanksgiving because you never know who God wants to bring into your life and to sit around your table. See, the story of Christianity was not shaped in pulpits. The culture of Christianity, the message of Christianity was not Jesus sitting in a pulpit. It was sitting around tables displaying the gospel to people that had no concept to who even God was in that midst, because culture segregated them for so long. And Jesus comes in and he begins to flip everybody's world upside down. And here's the point that's going to drive all this. The meal is the message. The meal that you have with people, how you treat them, how they sit at your table, how you ask them questions. Do they come to your table upset, hurting? Those Christians aren't going to understand me. I'm already hurt by it. The meal that Jesus ate with people, it was the message. Jesus' openness to his table got him killed. It also got him canceled, as we'll see. It says this in the text. It says, after this, he went out and he saw a man named Levi. He saw a man named Levi at his work collecting taxes. And Jesus said, come along with me, Levi. And he did, and he walked away from everything, and he went with him. See, Jesus saw this man for who he was, not what society called him. Jesus saw Levi for who he was, not what society called him. See, Jesus comes up to this point and he looks at this man named Levi who's sitting at his tax collector booth. He's been sitting at his tax collector booth for a long time. That's his day-to-day job. That's how he makes money. Now, just so you guys know, a tax collector in this context was a scumbag, ostracized. You don't want to hang out with them. They steal money from you. They work for Rome. You don't want to have anything to do with you. They basically chose Rome's side, so they're not oppressed by Rome. And even though he was a good Jewish man, he worked for the Roman society, and he was collecting taxes. So when people would come and they would come into these towns, there you got Levi who's collecting taxes for people. You got to think, every single person, it's like me turning my back on the church, and all of a sudden I'm now collecting taxes from each one of you. I know every one of you. You know you know all of me. I see you every day, and I'm taking money. Oh, not only that, but I'm taking, just give me a little bit more, because this is how also I make my money. So just give me a little bit more. I know you're only going to be taxed this, but you give me a little bit more, I can make. So I'm overcharging you now. Next thing you know, all of our relationship is broke. You don't want to have me around. Why would you want me around? You don't even want to know me. Oh, there's Jeff, the tax collector. So Levi's sitting there and he's at work and he's known as the tax collector. Now it's interesting in this context because when Jesus looks at Levi, he says, Levi, come and follow me. See, in this culture, you would have three names. You would have your Jewish name, you would have your Roman name, and you'd have your Greek name. See, Levi's Roman name was Matthew. No one knew Matthew by Levi except for the Jewish people. No one identified with Matthew. No one even talked about who Matthew was. No one even recognized, no one even wanted anything to do with him. And Jesus yet comes and he sees Matthew for who he is, not what he's doing. For the first time, Levi is known as Levi, not Levi the tax collector. And Jesus comes and he meets Levi at his tax collecting booth, right in the middle of his debauchery, right in the middle of his brokenness, right in the middle of him collecting money and stealing money and pocketing it just so that he could make an extra buck, so that he wasn't oppressed by Rome, so that he could make sure that he was taking care of his life and he could live luxurious. And just so you know, tax collectors lived pretty luxurious. Everybody else was oppressed, and yet Matthew, who was one of them, lived he got deep pockets. He got deep pockets. And it says this, Levi gave a large dinner at his home. So Levi meets Jesus. Jesus calls him out, and then Levi makes a large dinner at his home for Jesus. It says that everybody was there. Just like Thanksgiving. Everybody was there. Taxmen, other disputable characters, and guests at the dinner. The Pharisees and their religion scholars came to his disciples. They were greatly offended. What is he doing eating with these tax collectors and sinners? See, this would have been Levi at his home. I just met Jesus. I've never identified with anybody that would ever invite me to their table. No one ever even wanted anything to do with me. He actually called me by my Jewish name, but I've betrayed Jewish people. Why would he want to have anything to do with me? And he says, as soon as he meets them, he invites Jesus to his house. He invites Jesus into his space. How often do we leave Jesus just at church? How often do we leave Jesus just at church? That was a good message. A little outside my comfort zone, Jeff, but it was okay. Theologically, I don't know. I guess it was all right. Could have been better. Levi meets Jesus and invites him into his home. Now it says when Levi invited Jesus into his home, it was said that everybody was there. So who was there? You got to think, all the tax collectors that Levi is friends with, all the tax collectors, the chief tax collector. I would even think that Zacchaeus, who later met Jesus as he climbed at the sycamore fig tree, which to me represents that if Zacchaeus was sitting at the table, there was something beating in his heart that wanted to know the Jesus that just called Matthew out of his state. And that's why he climbed this tree, not because he was desperate to know Jesus. He sat around the table and he heard about stories of Jesus. So you got tax collectors, you got sinners, and then you got Pharisees. And the Pharisees were there to make sure that you abided by the law. And one of those things of abiding by the law is you do not eat with Antifa. You do not eat with Christian nationalists. You do not eat with people that are pro this or pro that. You don't do that. So the Pharisees, they would sit there and they would make sure that they're governing this party. They're governing it. They're making sure that ceremonially they're all clean, that they have all this stuff, that they're abiding by the law and the Torah. They're sitting there and they're not there to participate. They're not there to ask questions about Jesus. They're there to make sure that everything is being aligned with the way that it's supposed to be. Can you imagine Levi is never invited to anybody's table? He's never invited. Jews, Passover? Nope. You're not invited to that. You betrayed us. You're not even a part of our culture anymore. Nope. Pharisees? Definitely not. You don't abide by the law. Romans? No. Because you're not Roman. So where do I go? I don't know. Where do you go? Where do you go? And it makes sense why Levi had all of his friends sitting at the table, because it was the only space that they made for each other. And then they invited Jesus into that space. See, and I love this story because Jesus begins to talk to Levi like he's his friend. And he's sitting there, and just so you know, he paid for the meal with all the money that he just made. Jesus didn't stop him. He had all these people around his table. Jesus was like, do you know who that is? They don't need to be here. Why are they here? We don't talk to them. Why are they here? Nope, Jesus just kicked back. It also says in the ESV version, he reclined. Means he kicked it. That's my translation. This is a great dinner, Levi. Thank you for inviting me, by the way. And he's just taking inventory of Levi's heart, because a changed heart leads into a changed life. And a changed life leads into a changed behavior. A changed life leads into a changed perspective of the world. A changed life leads into a changed outlook on what people would say are dangerous and people that would say are marginalized. A changed heart and a changed life leads into a changed behavior that reflects the gospel. And all of a sudden, Jesus is kicking it at Levi's table, and he's being shunned. And this is exactly what got Jesus killed. Having table talks. Martin Luther of the 16th century said all of theology is table talks. It's conversation around good food with what society would say is bad people. Let me put it in perspective a little bit. If I was sitting at the table with somebody from Antifa, what would you guys think? If I was sitting at a table with somebody that was a nationalist, what would you guys think of me? If I was sitting at a table around something that is really controversial today and just having food with somebody, and all of a sudden that thing goes viral, what would you think? This is cancel culture. This is exactly what happened to Jesus, but it got him killed. Please don't do that to me. I'm just saying. I'm feisty. I will go down swinging. But just to put it in our context today, because everything that is happening here in this story is reflective of what is taking place now, and we are people that carry the gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ, if we are his witnesses and we are his followers. We're not just followers on a Sunday, we're followers every day. In our life, if we are reflecting the gospel, it should disrupt and irritate some things. It should push back on the gates of hell. It should push back on what people think is right and is wrong. It should push back. It should irritate. It should mess with you. It should frustrate you. It should be like, why is he eating good food with bad people? This is the gospel. This is why we have table talks. This is the story of Jesus. This is what got Jesus killed. That he, around a table, identified with people like tax collectors. And he identified with people like me and people like you. And he sits around our tables and he invites us into his grace and celebration and presence. He invites us to eat good food with bad people. Here's my prayer. You want to know my prayer? It's pretty dangerous. You ever pray those? I've been praying that God would give me an influence to eat good food with bad people. I pray that God would give me influence with someone from Antifa. I pray God would give me influence to sit down over coffee with somebody that's a Christian nationalist. I pray that God would give me influence with people that just got out of prison. I pray that God would give me influence with people that grew up in religion their whole life and yet have not known Jesus or been filled with the power of the Holy Spirit. All they've known is the word, but they don't know the word, which is the word is Jesus Christ and Christ crucified. I've been praying for these things. I've been praying that I would have these abilities in our community to have influence in these things, because when you have influence, you are incarnate into them. You enter into other people's stories. How cool would it be if someone invited us to their table? And we're like, can we go? I don't know. Can we go? Is it dangerous? Yep. Oh, yeah. Could we be canceled? Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah. I'm staying off Instagram. That's what happened. This is the gospel. Healing takes place around tables. The story of Jesus takes place around tables. Forgiveness takes place around tables. Families are restored and stories are shared around tables. It says that kids growing up, when they would sit around a table and they would hear stories from their grandfathers and their grandmothers about the things that they walked through in life and the obstacles that they overcame and the adversity and the sickness, and they're listening to people's marriages be restored, and they're watching their parents make sure that throughout everything, through health and triumph and sickness and death and all of it, that they stay together. When kids would sit at the tables, it says that they would develop a resiliency to overcome obstacles because they're hearing the stories of overcoming. My question is, have we lost our resiliency because we've lost the table. Have we lost our resiliency to talk about the things of God? Yes, things are dark right now, but God's called us for such a time as this. If he saw the Israelites through, he's going to see us through. If he saw Daniel through, he'll see us through. If he saw that family through, he'll see us through. He's the God. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. But we don't sit around tables. So have we lost our resiliency as people to talk about really tough issues that are going on in the world, like the things that we already discussed, and kids growing up confused, what's right, what's wrong, who am I, what image am I created in? Have we lost that ability because we've lost the table? This is where those things early in the church took place. This is where the church grew. This is where the church spread. Good food, bad people, good conversation. Let's talk about life. Let's talk about these things. This is the gospel. This is the gospel. I want to conclude with this story. I've shared it before, but I want to conclude with it, and Ben, you can come on up. This story has really sat with me ever since I shared it the first time and even read it the first time about the table and why is the table so powerful? Why is the table so powerful? Why is the table known in the Old Testament as the altar where things come to die and things come to life? Why is the table so powerful? I want to share this story with you. It's called Dinner with a Racist. There's this man named Derek Black, and he was an American white nationalist. And one day he saw a post on a student's message board that read, Derek Black, white supremacist, new to college. Someone at the school was researching and came across this information and Derek's secret life. And soon the message board was filled with posts from students. Do you know that Derek is here? Do you know who Derek is? Here, check out this website. Do you know who this guy is? He's not welcome here. Why is he at our college? Get Derek out. Get Derek. I could just imagine, It's like, who are you? Derek said, I would sit there. I would read post after post, over 1,000 responses talking about how I was not welcomed there. How I didn't represent their school, and how there was no place for me. Matthew Stevenson was the only Orthodox Jewish student at the college. And to invite people to his life, he started a Shabbat dinner. Have you ever been to a Shabbat dinner? I love Shabbat. Sabbath is my favorite. Over quarantine, Kristen threw some mighty savage Sabbaths. Like, I just threw a word together and just compiled it. Mighty savage Sabbaths. There we go. I mean, we had pasta, we had bread, we had good wine. Can you have that? I don't know. We had water. We had LaCroix. And we would just sit there over quarantine. And we had nothing else to do, so we invited friends over. We met a girl that was homeless on the side of the road. We led her. It was powerful. We just sit there, and every Sabbath, we would light the candle of the Sabbath. We were kind of radical with this. I would put on YouTube and turn on the Shabbat, the prayer that they would pray to welcome in God's presence before the Sabbath begins. It was awesome. And we had the best Sabbath. Sabbath dinners became my favorite. And Jewish people in their culture, they know how to do Sabbath right. It's like the celebration of God's presence that you're inviting in. You're going, God, this day is holy unto you, and we're going to celebrate like it's 1999. Christians should know how to throw a phenomenal rad party where people look in and go, can I go to that? Why are they having so much fun and eating with so many people? That looks delicious. Can I have some of that? We should give the world a different taste and see. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Let's throw awesome Sabbath dinners that are just like, people are like looking around going, I don't know what kind of church that is, but I definitely want to go to that dinner. They got some good food. So I could just imagine Matthew Stevenson's Shabbat dinner. He probably had his traditional, is it yarmulke? Yarmulke? He probably had his traditional yarmulke. He probably set out the table with everything that was his Jewish culture, with the lamb that was literally in the middle of the table. He had chairs and tables, and they have the tablecloth. I mean, they throw a rad dinner. And you got to think, Matthew Stevenson was the only Orthodox Jew at this college. And he started these Shabbat dinners to foster understanding of Jewish culture. And he decided to invite Derek Black to his table. Derek went because it was the only place that he was welcome. The only place on campus. And he continued to go week after week, and slowly his views began to change. And around a table on a college campus, a Jew and a white supremacist encountered new possibility. An environment of welcome transformed Derek's life. And he found a new way forward. You guys, it's not complicated. It's just hard. Jesus is not complicated. He's just really actually hard to obey. Do all that I've commanded you. Teach them all that I've commanded you. All that you've commanded me, yeah. What I've modeled at the table, when I touched leopards, when I was around prostitutes, when I told you to turn the other cheek, when you were smacked in the face by Romans, yeah, when I told you to get up after they stoned, all of these things, obey what I've commanded you as I modeled it. It's not complicated. It's just extremely hard. Do you know how hard it is to sit with somebody at a table that you disagree with, that you don't align with, that you're frustrated with, a family member, somebody that's been outcasted or whatever it is? Do you know how hard it is? The gospel is not complicated. Jesus gives us exactly what to do, and he says, this is how theology is formed. Table talks. And here's the thing about evangelism. Are you ready? Are you ready? Here's the thing about evangelism. It starts with us. You have to talk to somebody. You have to talk to somebody about Jesus. You know how awkward it is to talk to somebody about Jesus when you're just standing there like, so, do you know him? The old way of evangelism, like, we're going to go street hopping. You know, I call it street hopping, the holy hops, you know? This is the new form of evangelism that God and his Spirit is trying to invite us into. Kids that are broken, kids that are hurting, people that are hurting, white supremacists, Jewish people, culture of understanding. Ephesians says God tears down all the walls of hostility, and you know where it happens? Around tables. Do you know the possibility that can transform your life and our church and the culture around us if we just invite someone to our table? It's not complicated. It's just really hard. Want to know why? Because we go, I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have space. I don't have space. Well, my family doesn't get together around the table, so we're not gonna do it. And Jesus is like, well, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna make space? What's it gonna look like? Get creative. Host a potluck at your business. Host a dinner. Take someone out to coffee. The table is the future pulpit. So I have 3 questions to ask you as we reflect on this message today. 3 questions to ask you. Number 1, who is invited to your table? Who's invited? Number 2, who are you eating with? Because when you eat with somebody, you identify with them. And the last question is, who are you not eating with and why? Who are you not eating with and why? I'm excited for these table talks. It's gonna challenge us. It's challenging me to make space in my life, in my home, to get back to the basics of just being with people around tables, eating good food, having good conversation. I've already invited one friend that I haven't seen for at least a year that used to go to church with us, and now I don't know what he's doing, and he said he would come to our dinner and sit around my table. He might not ever come here, but he'll sit around our tables. Father, we pray right now that you would just teach us what it looks like, God, to be faithful witnesses, God, around tables. Challenge our hearts, challenge our life, challenge our family, challenge our theology. God, challenge us, shake us up. God, reveal to us, God, where we don't want to make space because the gospel is actually really hard. It's really hard to live countercultural. It's actually really hard to be in community all the time. It's really hard to be a part of a church outside of a Sunday. It's really hard to commit ourselves to the ways of Jesus. It's really hard. So God, would you come and would you give us strength for when it is hard? Strength to endure, like Paul says. Strength to stand, strength to walk. God, would you be the provider that would open up doors that no man can open? And right now, Lord, I just pray that our church would receive a supernatural influence to eat good food with what society would say is bad people. In Jesus' mighty name, I pray this. Amen. Come on, church, stand up. Let's sing one more song as we worship and as we conclude our service.